My hands are shaking as I held the envelope. Not the kind of shaking you get when you're cold. Not the kind when you're nervous before a job interview. This was different. This was the kind of trembling that starts deep in your chest, travels through your shoulders, and makes its way down to your fingertips until you can barely hold on to anything at all. 12 years. She had been by my side for 12 years. 12 years of growing together, getting stronger together, dreaming together. 12 years of birthday candles and Christmas mornings. 12 years of I love you, whispered in the dark. 12 years of building what I thought was forever. And now, a single piece of paper inside this envelope, a document I could barely bring myself to open, could change my life in a second, could erase everything I thought I knew, could take away the one thing that gave my life meaning. My son's eyes looked like mine. At least that's what I thought. At least that's what I told myself every single day. I would stare at his face for hours, searching for traces of my own childhood. The way his nose crinkled when he laughed, the dimple on his left cheek, the cowlick that made his hair stick up in the morning, just like mine always did. He was mine, my little man, my reason for breathing. But now, sitting in this courtroom with this envelope in my trembling hands, I wasn't sure anymore. And that uncertainty was killing me. It all started 6 months ago, though if I'm being honest, maybe it started long before that. Maybe there were signs I didn't want to see. Maybe there were moments I chose to ignore, because admitting the truth would have shattered the perfect life I thought we had. We were struggling financially. The kind of struggling that keeps you up at night, staring at the ceiling, doing math in your head that never quite adds up. The kind that makes you choose between paying the electric bill and buying groceries. The kind that slowly, quietly destroys everything you've built. We had to move into separate homes. It wasn't supposed to be permanent. I went to my mom's place, back to my childhood bedroom with the posters still on the walls, feeling like a failure at 32 years old. She went to her mother's house across town. Just temporary, we said. Just until we get back on our feet. Just a few months, we said. We promised each other it wouldn't change anything. We promised we'd still be a family. We promised our son that Daddy would see him every single day. But something changed during those few months. Something I didn't see coming. She stopped answering my calls. At first, it was just once or twice. Sorry, baby, I was in the shower. My phone was on silent. Normal excuses that I accepted without question because I trusted her. Because after 12 years, why wouldn't I? It became more frequent. A day would go by without hearing her voice. Then 2 days. Then 3. I called her phone 15, 20 times. Straight to voicemail. Every single time. Hi, you've reached. I knew that recording by heart. I heard it in my sleep. I couldn't see my son. I'd show up at her mother's house, and her mother would answer the door with this look on her face, pity mixed with something else I couldn't quite identify. They're not here, she'd say. I don't know when they'll be back. Where were they? Where was my family? I'd drive around the city at night, looking for her car, feeling crazy but unable to stop myself. I'd check her social media obsessively, scrolling through photos that seemed so normal, so ordinary, while my world was falling apart. Then, after a week of complete silence, 7 days that felt like 7 years, she called from a private number. The phone rang, and my heart stopped. I stared at those words on my screen, private number. Why was she hiding? Why couldn't she just call me from a regular phone? Why did everything feel so wrong? I almost didn't answer. My finger hovered over the decline button, because part of me knew, somehow, I already knew, that answering this call would change everything. That once I heard what she had to say, there would be no going back to the way things were. But I answered. Of course I answered. Because she was my world. Let's meet, she said. Her voice was different. Strained. Like she'd been crying for hours. There was something strange in it. Fear? Or was it guilt? Or maybe both. Where have you been? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Try not to sound desperate, even though I was. Where's my son? Why haven't you been answering my calls? I need to talk to you, she said. In person. Can you meet me at Tower City? My stomach dropped. Tower City, the mall where we had our first date. Where I bought her first piece of real jewelry. Where we'd taken our son to see Santa Claus every Christmas since he was born. I couldn't help it. The question just came out. I didn't even think about it. The words forced themselves past my lips, and even as I said them, I couldn't believe I was asking. Is he mine? Silence. The kind of silence that screams louder than any words ever could. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. Ragged. Uneven. Is he mine? I asked again, my voice cracking. Is my son mine? Then she started crying. Deep, gut-wrenching sobs that I could hear even through the phone. And I knew, in that moment, I knew my life was about to fall apart. We met at Tower City. I got there first, sat on a bench near the fountain where I'd proposed to her 4 years earlier. I got down on one knee right there, in front of everyone, and she'd said yes. She'd said yes. And we'd spun around together, laughing, planning our future. Now I sat on that same bench, waiting for her to arrive and destroy that future. She walked up slowly, pushing our son in his stroller. He was sleeping, his little head tilted to the side, one hand clutching his favorite stuffed dinosaur. He looked so peaceful, so innocent. He had no idea his whole world was about to change. She sat down next to me, and I couldn't even look at her. I kept my eyes on our son. My son, I still believe he was mine. I had to believe it, and waited. There was someone else, she said finally. Her voice was barely above a whisper. My hands clenched into fists. Who? It doesn't matter who. It matters to me, I said, louder than I meant to. Our son stirred in his stroller. I forced myself to lower my voice. How long? She was quiet for a long moment. Too long. And when she finally answered, her words hit me like a physical blow. 8 years. 8 years. What? I couldn't process it. It didn't make sense. We've been together for 12 years. You're telling me that for 8 of those 12 years, you've been— Not the whole time, she said quickly. It was on and off. When we fought, when things got hard, I would go to him. 8 years. 2/3 of our relationship. 2/3 of what I thought was love, was trust, was forever. Does he know? I asked, looking at her son. Does he know he might be his? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I told him. When I found out I was pregnant, I told both of you. Both of you. Like we were just 2 options. 2 possibilities. Like our son was some kind of game show prize, and she was waiting to see who won. How did she hide it? That's what you're wondering, right? How does someone hide an 8-year affair? She was good. I'll give her that. She was very, very good. She had 2 phones, I found out later. One for me, one for him. She'd schedule her time carefully. When I worked night shifts, she was with him. When I thought she was at her mother's house, she was with him. When I was out of town for work, she was with him. 8 years of lies. 8 years of "I love you" that meant nothing. 8 years of coming home to a woman who'd just been in another man's bed. How did I not see it? How was I so blind? She confessed everything that day. Sitting on that bench, with our son sleeping between us, she told me the whole story. How they'd met. How it started. How she tried to end it, but kept going back. I was there when he was born, I said, my voice hollow. I signed a birth certificate. I gave him my last name. I cut the cord. I was the first person to hold him after you. I know, she whispered. He slept on my chest every night for the first 3 months. Do you remember that? He wouldn't sleep anywhere else. Just my chest. And I would lie there, barely breathing, terrified I might wake him up. Watching him sleep, counting his breaths, falling more in love with him every single second. I know, she said again. I changed every diaper. I gave him every bath. I sang him to sleep. I taught him to walk. His first word was Dada. Do you remember that? His first word was Dada, and I cried. I actually cried because I was so happy. She was sobbing now, but I couldn't stop. I needed her to understand what she'd done. He's 3 years old now. 3 years old. And for 3 years, I've been his father. I've been his entire world. And now you're telling me, my voice broke. Now you're telling me that maybe he's not even mine? I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. But sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't change the fact that when I look at my son now, I'll always wonder. When he calls me daddy, I'll always have that down in the back of my mind. When he grows up and becomes a man, I'll always question whether I see myself in him, or if I'm just seeing what I want to see. This child changed my life, I told the judge later in the courtroom. I was heading down a bad path. I was angry at the world. I was making terrible choices. And then he was born, and everything just stopped. All that anger, all that rage, it just disappeared the moment I held him. I looked at the woman sitting across from me, the woman I'd loved for 12 years, the woman who destroyed everything, and continued. He saved me. He made me want to be better. He made me want to wake up every morning and try harder and do right by him. He's the reason I went back to school. He's the reason I got a better job. He's the reason I stopped drinking. Everything good in my life exists because of him. The judge was looking at me with sympathy, but sympathy doesn't change DNA. Sympathy doesn't make me his father if I'm not. Does it matter? I found myself asking, does it matter if he's biologically mine? I'm the one who's been there. I'm the one who knows he likes his sandwiches cut diagonally, not straight across. I'm the one who knows he's afraid of the vacuum cleaner. I'm the one who knows that when he has a nightmare, you have to rub his back in circles, not up and down, or he won't go back to sleep. It matters, the judge said gently. For child support, for custody, for his future. It matters. And she was right. As much as I wanted to say that love is all that matters, that biology doesn't define family, she was right. In the eyes of the law, it matters. In the eyes of society, it matters. And if I'm being completely honest with myself, it matters to me too. I need to know. I need to know if the last 3 years have been real or if they've been built on a lie. But I'm not the only one in this courtroom. There are other stories, other men who've been where I am, other families torn apart by doubt and infidelity and lies. There's a soldier sitting 3 rows behind me. I heard his story earlier. While he was overseas in Afghanistan, getting shot at, watching his friends die, serving his country, his wife was back home, sleeping with other men. He found out through Facebook messages. Can you imagine? Serving your country in a war zone, and your wife is sending messages to some guy saying, "The time I spent with you was amazing, baby." He came home to find her pregnant. The baby that was born looked nothing like him. For 2 years, 2 full years, he threw her mistakes in her face. Every single day, every argument, every disagreement, he'd bring it up. You cheated on me. You destroyed our family. You don't even know who your baby's father is. But he's still here, still married to her, still raising that child. Because sometimes love is more powerful than hate. Sometimes the need to keep a family together is stronger than the need to be right. I have a lot to make up for, he said when the DNA results came back and proved he was the father. I didn't treat her like a real father should. I let my anger control me. I let my pain hurt an innocent child. His wife held his hand. We'll get through this, she said. Now we know the truth. Now we can heal. I guess we're stuck with each other, he said, and there was a smile in his voice. A real smile. Maybe their first real smile in 2 years. The courtroom laughed, that nervous, relieved kind of laughter that comes when tension finally breaks. But I couldn't laugh, because I kept thinking, how many days had he wasted? How many moments with his daughter had he ruined because of his anger? What if the results had been different? What if she wasn't his? Would he regret all that wasted time? There's another couple here. Young. So young they look like they should be in high school, not in a courtroom determining paternity. They met when they were 16. He came from a terrible home. Abuse, neglect, the kind of childhood that leaves scars you can't see but carry forever. Her family took him in, gave him a room, gave him safety, gave him love for the first time in his life. And somewhere along the way, they fell in love. 17 years old and thinking they'd found their forever. But she had another boyfriend. She was sleeping with both of them. And when the baby came, a beautiful little girl with bright blue eyes, nobody knew who the father was. He was there for me, she said in her testimony. When I was pregnant and scared and didn't know what to do, he was there. He came to every doctor's appointment. He held my hand during labor. He cut the cord. He named her. The boy, because he's really just a boy, barely 20 years old, was holding the baby during the hearing. She was 3 years old, playing with his hair, calling him daddy, completely oblivious to the fact that her entire world might be about to change. I love her, he said simply. She's mine. I don't care what any test says. She's mine. But the test matters. It always matters. And then there's the case that almost made me laugh, if anything about this situation could be funny. A man standing in front of the judge, absolutely insistent. I never slept with her. Not even once. Not ever. The woman screaming back. You did. You know we did. You were in my bed. We were just friends. I slept on the couch. You slept in my bed on April 11th. I remember the exact date. Back and forth, back and forth. He's showing phone records, witness statements, text messages, all try and prove they never had sex. She's showing photos of them together, receipts from dates, her own testimony about their intimacy. I lived with him for 2 months, she said. 2 months. And one night, after we'd been drinking, after we'd been dancing, we went to bed together. I know it happened. I was there. I was drunk, he admitted. But I wasn't that drunk. I would remember. I've never been so drunk that I couldn't remember the next day. It didn't happen. Who's telling the truth? Has the woman convinced herself of something that never happened? Has the man blocked out a night he's ashamed of? Or is someone deliberately lying? The baby is 6 months old, sitting in her grandmother's arms. She doesn't care who her father is. She just wants to be fed and held and loved. But soon, she'll be old enough to ask questions. Where's my daddy? And someone will have to explain to her that her daddy doesn't believe she exists, that her conception is disputed, that her very existence is wrapped up in lies and doubt and courtroom drama. That's what gets me. These children, all these innocent children, they didn't ask for any of this. All these stories have one thing in common. Children, babies who know nothing except that they want to be held. Toddlers who know nothing except that they want their daddy. Children who will grow up and one day understand that their family was built on questions instead of answers. They didn't ask to be born into doubt. They didn't ask to be paternity cases instead of just kids. They didn't ask for any of this. When the DNA results come back in these courtrooms, I watch the reactions. Some men jump from their seats with joy. I'm the father. I knew it. I knew she was mine. They cry. They laugh. They grab their children and hold them close. Some men collapse. Their faces go blank. They can't speak, can't move, can't process the information that they're not the father of the child they've loved, the child they've raised, the child who calls them daddy. And some women cry. Deep, soul-crushing sobs that echo through the courtroom. Because they've been wrong. Because they've looked at the wrong man all this time. Because the right man is in prison or has disappeared or wants nothing to do with them. Because for years, they've been building a family with someone who isn't biologically connected to their child. I still want to be your father, one man said after finding out the child wasn't his. He was crying, but his voice was steady, determined. No matter what that paper says, she's my daughter. I've been there since day one. I'm not going anywhere. The entire courtroom stood and applauded. Even the judge had tears in her eyes. But there was another man, a man who'd said earlier, if she's not mine, I'm changing her name. I'm removing myself from her life completely. I'm done. When the results came back and proved he was the father, he collapsed in his chair and wept. I'm not changing anything, he said through his tears. She's my Brandon. Everyone knows her as my Brandon. I could never, he couldn't finish the sentence. Now it's my turn. I'm sitting in this courtroom, holding this envelope, and I realize something. No matter what this paper says, my life is about to change. If he's mine, I'll be relieved, vindicated. I'll know that the last 3 years haven't been a lie. I'll know that when I look at his face, I'm seeing pieces of myself. I'll know that we're connected by more than just love. We're connected by blood, by DNA, by biology itself. But I'll also know that the woman I loved for 12 years, the woman I trusted, the woman I built a life with, she betrayed me. For 8 years, she lied to my face. For 8 years, she was with someone else. And I'll have to decide, can I ever forgive that? Can I ever trust her again? Can we ever be a family? And if he's not mine? God, if he's not mine, then what? Then I'm just a man who loved a child who wasn't his. Just a man who changed diapers and sang lullabies and stayed up all night with a sick baby, all for someone else's child. Just a man who has no legal right to the little boy who calls him daddy. The judge looks at me, then at her, then back at me. The entire courtroom is silent, waiting. Everyone here has heard our story. Everyone here knows what's at stake. Mr. Robinson, the judge says. Her voice is kind but firm. Professional. This is just another case to her, but to me, it's my entire life. Regarding 3-year-old Brandon Robinson Jr.'s paternity. I can't breathe. My vision is narrowing. All I can see is the judge's face. All I can hear is the pounding of my own heart. The DNA test results show. Time slows down. Seconds feel like hours, like days, like years, that you are his biological father. The world rushes back and all at once. Sound, color, sensation. Everything I couldn't process a moment ago suddenly overwhelming me. I'm on my feet. I don't remember standing up. I'm crying. I don't remember starting. I'm laughing and sobbing at the same time. And I can't stop, can't control myself, can't do anything except feel. He's mine. My son is mine. The relief is so intense, it's almost painful. Like I've been holding my breath for 6 months and can finally exhale. Like I've been carrying a 1,000-pound weight and someone just lifted it off my shoulders. He's mine. The blood in his veins came from me. The DNA in his cells came from me. When he smiles, he's smiling with my smile. When he laughs, he's laughing with my laugh. He's mine. But then I look across the courtroom at her, and the relief is tinged with something else. Anger, betrayal, the knowledge that even though he's mine, she still took 8 years of our 12-year relationship and gave them to someone else. Can I forgive that? Should I forgive that? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I know this, my son is mine. And whatever happens between me and her, whatever we decide about our relationship, whatever the future holds, he's mine. And I'm going to be the best father I can possibly be. That night, I went to pick him up from her mother's house. First time I'd seen him in almost a week. He came running when he saw me, the way only a 3-year-old can run, all uncoordinated limbs and pure joy. "Daddy," he shouted. "Daddy, daddy, daddy." I scooped him up and held him so tight, buried my face in his hair, breathed in that little kid smell of shampoo and sunshine and home. "I missed you, buddy," I said. "Missed you too," he said. Then he pulled back and looked at me with those eyes that I now knew, without any doubt, came from me, and said, "Best day ever." It was his phrase. He said all the time. It didn't matter if we were at the park or at the grocery store or just sitting on the couch watching cartoons. "Best day ever." "Yeah, buddy," I said, my voice breaking. "Best day ever." And it was, despite everything. Despite the pain and the betrayal and the doubt and the fear. Despite the fact that my relationship was in ruins and I had no idea what the future held. It was the best day ever. Because I knew. Finally, I knew for certain. He was mine. But here's the thing nobody tells you about these paternity tests, about these courtroom dramas, about these DNA results. Knowing doesn't fix everything. Yes, I know now that he's mine. Yes, that doubt is gone. Yes, I can look at him and not wonder. But I still have to deal with the 8-year affair. I still have to process the betrayal. I still have to decide what to do about a relationship that's been built on lies. And more than that, I have to think about all those other men in that courtroom. The soldier who wasted 2 years being angry at his own daughter. The young man who might not be the father of the little girl he loves. The man who doesn't even remember if he slept with the mother of his possible child. What about them? What about the children growing up in homes filled with doubt? What about the families being torn apart by questions that might never be answered? What about the men who walk away from children who need them? What about the women who don't even know who their baby's father is? This isn't just my story. This is happening everywhere, every day. Families in ruins. Children without fathers, or with fathers who doubt them. Men paying child support for children who aren't theirs. Women lying to keep their families together. It's messy. It's complicated. It's painful. And there are no easy answers. I think about the soldier a lot. The one who spent 2 years punishing his daughter for her mother's mistakes. He got his answer. She was his. And now he has to live with the guilt of all that lost time. All those moments he could have been loving her. He was resenting her instead. "I have a lot to make up for," he said. Don't we all? I think about the young man, barely 20, holding a 3-year-old who might not be his. The way he said, "I don't care what any test says. She's mine." And I wonder, is that brave or is that foolish? Is that love or is that denial? Maybe it's both. I think about all the children, all the innocent victims of adult mistakes. And I wonder what we tell them when they're old enough to understand. How do we explain that mommy wasn't sure who daddy was? How do we make them understand that the doubt wasn't their fault? The truth is, love is complicated. Relationships are complicated. People are complicated. But children? Children are simple. They just want to be loved. They want to feel safe. They want a daddy who shows up, who keeps his promises, who tucks them in at night, and tells them everything's going to be okay. Sometimes that daddy is the biological father. Sometimes he's not. Sometimes he's a man who chose to be a father even when he didn't have to be. And sometimes the real father, the biological one, is nowhere to be found. In prison, disappeared, doesn't care, doesn't want to be involved. Biology doesn't make you a father. Being there makes you a father. But God, it helps to know. It helps to have that certainty. It helps to look at your child and know, without any doubt, that they came from you. I want to pick up my son again today. 1 week after the results. 1 week of knowing for certain that he's mine. He came running like he always does. Daddy, I caught him and spun him around, and he laughed that belly laugh that only children can manage. Pure joy. Uncomplicated. Beautiful. Best day ever, he said. Yeah, buddy. Best day ever. And as I held him, I thought about all those other fathers in that courtroom. The ones who got good news and the ones who got bad news. The ones who stayed and the ones who left. The ones who loved their children no matter what and the ones who couldn't get past the doubt. I thought about the soldier making up for lost time. The young man raising a child who might not be his. The man who swore he never slept with her, now faced with a child who needs a father. I thought about all the women too. The ones who lied and the ones who didn't know. The ones who were faithful and the ones who weren't. The ones trying to hold their families together and the ones watching them fall apart. And I realized we're all just trying our best, making mistakes, living with consequences, hoping we can fix what we've broken before it's too late. So what's the moral of this story? What's the lesson? Maybe it's that you have to know the truth, no matter how much it hurts. Because living in doubt is worse than living with painful certainty. Maybe it's that love isn't always enough. That sometimes you can love someone with your whole heart and still not be able to forgive them. Maybe it's that being a father is about more than biology. It's about showing up, being present, choosing every single day to be there. Or maybe there is no moral. Maybe life is just messy and complicated and painful, and all we can do is try to minimize the damage we cause to the innocent people, the children who never asked to be part of our drama. All I know is this: my son is mine. The blood in his veins came from me. The DNA in his cells came from me. He's mine in every way that matters. And as for her, the woman who lied for 8 years, who betrayed me, who put me through 6 months of hell, I don't know yet. I don't know if I can forgive. I don't know if we can rebuild. I don't know what the future holds. But I know my son needs a father. And I know I need to be the best father I can possibly be, regardless of what happens with his mother. So that's what I'll do. I'll show up. I'll be present. I'll love him with everything I have. Because that's what fathers do. Last night, I was putting him to bed, tucking him in, reading him his favorite book about dinosaurs for the 1,000th time. When I finished, he looked up at me with those eyes, my eyes, and said, "I love you, Daddy. I love you too, buddy. So much. Best day ever." I smiled, kissed his forehead, turned on his nightlight shaped like a moon. "Yeah, buddy. Best day ever." And as I stood in the doorway, watching him drift off to sleep, I thought about that envelope. That terrible, wonderful envelope that had held the answer to the most important question in my life. I thought about the moment the judge opened it, the way time seemed to stop, the way my entire future hung in the balance. And I realized something. No matter what that paper had said, I would have loved him. Maybe I would have been devastated. Maybe I would have needed time to process. Maybe it would have been harder, more complicated, more painful. But I would have loved him. Because that's what you do when you're a father. Real fathers, the ones who show up, who stay, who choose their children every single day. They love their kids no matter what. Biology just makes it a little bit easier to silence that voice of doubt. So here I am, still his father, still navigating a complicated relationship with his mother, still trying to figure out what forgiveness looks like, still wondering if we can ever truly trust each other again. But when my son runs to me with his arms out, shouting, "Daddy," with that huge smile on his face, none of the rest of it matters. In that moment, there's no doubt, no betrayal, no lies, Just a father and his son. Just love. Just best day ever. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough.